Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jackie if you're new here. This channel is all about food. It's all about growing a little yourself. It's about buying it as close to the producer as you can, and it's about wasting as little of it as possible. So if that's something that might interest you, please do stick around. It's actually been a while since I've filmed because I've actually been away for 3 weeks. We went on a camping holiday for 3 weeks, my family and I, and it was lovely. I really enjoy camping because you get to unplug, but we're back, and I just thought I would. The garden is looking. Obviously, it had to fend for itself for 3 weeks. I didn't have anyone coming over to check on things, so I just wanted to talk today about the fact that having a garden doesn't mean that you can never leave. It does mean that you need to garden differently or manage your expectations differently, but it doesn't actually mean that you can never go away. You can't have a life. So I just wanted to basically show you where we're at after we've been away. So just show you what I've got going on in the garden. I do actually have some stuff still growing. We were lucky in that it did rain a fair bit. Lucky, not so sure, because it was a lot of rain. I think we had quite a bit of rain. I do actually have a bit of stuff in the garden because of how I kind of managed going away. So I thought I would go through some of that today. So let's get into it. So what I did do before I went away was I actually sowed quite a lot of seeds. Some of those seedlings actually got reasonably big before I expected them to. So some of them I actually put in the ground before we left instead of getting somebody to babysit them. So my mother-in-law actually took a whole lot of my seedlings and just babysat them, some tomatoes and sort of a few different things. Some stuff got big really quick. So I actually just jammed it in the ground and just hoped for the best, because I knew that if I left them until I got back, I wouldn't be able to use those seedlings anyway, because they would have ended up being stunted, being in those pots for too long. So let me show you what's going on. So I think I put about 8 cucumbers into the ground and some zinnias. Some of the zinnias have actually done all right, as you can see. The zinnias are doing quite well. But the cucumbers, most of the cucumbers did very poorly. They're all really little. Perhaps it didn't rain in time. This one is going very well, along with a whole lot of sweet basil. So this one's done very well. Hasn't got any fruit, but it does have some flowers. And yeah, as you can see, the sweet basil's doing fabulously. Another zinnia peeking its head out there. Then I actually misjudged how long it would take these to. I actually thought these might be ready before we left, and they weren't. And so I just left them in to see how they would go. So I have all these radishes now that I need to do something with, so stay tuned for some radish recipes. But I did just want to, it was really a big experiment just to see. I wanted to kind of hit the ground running when I got home. And so I did start a whole lot of seeds, hoping that then I would be able to put those seedlings into the ground. And being able to obviously transport seedlings for somebody to take care of for me rather than somebody having to come to my house to look after was what I was kind of looking for. But anything that I had in the ground, I just hoped for the best. Low expectations. If anything did really well, great. If it didn't, oh well. So let's keep looking at what's in the ground. So obviously some zinnias that have done fabulously. Now this bed I actually gave over to Tommy. What is that? This must be coriander. I don't remember doing that. Oh well. Is that coriander? No, that's parsley. Huh. I don't remember that. I think I might have shaken a plant that had gone to seed all over this bed, and I'd completely forgotten about it. So that's great. We needed some parsley. I don't have any other parsley plants, so win-win. But what I had done with this bed was actually give it to Tommy, and we planted some beans and some sunflowers. The beans were brand new. I bought them from my local hardware store. in order to plant, because that's what Tommy decided that he wanted to plant. And none of them germinated. None of the beans germinated. And we've got one very sorry looking sunflower. Here's our one very sorry looking sunflower. There's nothing else. Oh, that's obviously... Oh, something's pulled that out. Something's pulled that out at some point. I did think that there were two when we got home. Oh well, okay. So then, as you can see, I've done a bit of a reconfiguration of the garden beds. So when I originally set up the garden beds, I was just trying to set them up north to south, but I just found that given the orientation of the yard, that I was using up a lot of room doing that. So I've actually shuffled things around a bit. So in this current configuration, I've got these 3 beds plus the big side bed. And in this configuration, we'll fit in another 3 beds of the same size as these, which are a pretty good size. And then we'll have one smaller size at the back of the 2 over there on the other side of the gate. So I did a reconfiguration, and I did that when Chris was packing up all of the stuff for packing. I was I was shuffling around garden beds with the wheelbarrow, because when I got home, I wanted to hit the ground running as far as getting things into the ground. So I wanted those beds to have been moved. I wanted the soil to have settled. We needed to buy some more soil, so the reason that I did that was because Chris had built me another one. So we sort of started reconfiguring things. I shifted stuff, and I just wanted it all ready to go for when I got home. So basically, the way I managed it was that I didn't have much in, and anything that I did have in, I just hoped for the best. But I did just want to speak just briefly about the fact that a lot of people, when I talk to them about having a garden, say, oh, I couldn't have a garden. We like to go away on holidays, or we like to go away too much. And I think there's this perception that if you do go away, you can't have a garden, and that's not the case. You would garden differently to somebody who likes to stay at home. I do, but at the same time, we obviously do like to have family holidays. But you would garden differently. So you would grow things that allowed for you to be able to not have to baby those things. You'd have perennials, which would depend on where you live. So for me, an eggplant is a perennial, and I could ignore that eggplant for weeks on end, and it would be okay. You would grow plants that were not fussy. You wouldn't have a whole lot of leafy stuff. You would probably have you'd have more herbs, and you'd have more things that were okay with being ignored a little bit. And there are plenty of plants out there like that. You just have to experiment and work out what can cope with that. Most vegetables, once they get to a certain size, can look after themselves a lot better too. So that's something to keep in mind. If you know the time that you're going to be going away, then you can plan for that and make sure that everything is big enough to be able to fend for itself by the time you're going away. And it also depends how long you're going away for, obviously. The other thing I would say is to do with water. And this you could do in order to conserve water anyway. So it wouldn't necessarily be only if you knew that you would be away for a certain amount of time, but actually training your plants to have less water would actually be really helpful as well. So if you water your plants every single day, you water them a little bit every single day, those plants get used to being watered a little bit every single day. Whereas if you give those plants a really big water every 3rd or 4th day, then you're training them to not having lots of water all the time. The other thing I would say is things like fruit trees. Just because you do have a really hectic schedule, which means that you're just not home, once you get fruit trees up and running, that's still food that you're growing that, you haven't got a veggie garden that needs upkeep all the time. You've got something that will give you food at certain times of the year and needs attention certain times of the year that you can kind of work around. So I think there's lots of options for most people to be able to grow a little bit of food themselves. And of course, I'm all about that. So um, I'm glad to be back. I hope you got something out of this video. I just wanted to touch base and show you guys where I'm at. There's going to be lots going on in the next few weeks. So I'll have lots to show you. And I'm really excited about this next couple of months of growing. So I'll see you again soon.